Hey everybody, it is Mary Nunley welcoming you to the Create, Engage, Succeed show. For those of you who don't know me, I am the co-founder of the Lavender Dragon team where we make learning fun. I'm with my co-host, Amadeus.
Hello. Also, Amadeus with the Lavender Dragon team.
And I am so excited that we have our very first guest on our podcast, on our show, the fabulous Connie Whitman. And Connie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I've sent out a few messages to let the world know who you are, but why don't you just take a minute or two and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am Connie Whitman. I'm really excited to be here, and I am beyond honored to be the first live guest. So that's awesome. So Connie Whitman, I have been in financial sales for 38 years. 20 of those years I've been in business. And with COVID hitting everybody, like everybody else, I had to shift and pivot. And so I've gone from all live events and live training at my clients to teach sales and how to communicate more effectively with clients and move that needle to make more money. I've had to shift, and we're doing everything online now. So big adjustment. And you know what? It's exciting. It's fresh. It's keeping me fresh, I think. And we were just saying before we started the show, technology. And, I'm figuring out as I go along, just like all of you, and it's all good. It's all good. As long as we learn and move forward, it's all good.
That is so true. And I just love your attitude and your enthusiasm. So for those of you that don't know, Connie and I met, I guess it's been about 6 months ago, kind of at the start of when this whole COVID craziness kicked in.
Yes.
And if you happen to watch this, in 2021 or the future, we are in October of 2020. We are still in the midst of a global pandemic. And pretty much all of us have been moved to working from home, unless we're in an essential service position. So for future audiences, this is what we're talking about. But Connie and I met in a group called the JVology, People, Profits, and Fun. And I had no clue what I was doing. I was new. And, it was kind of nice to have beginner's mind. But as part of that, Connie and I connected. I had posted something about one of the things our company does is gamification. And she's like, oh, I got to talk to you. So we had a conversation. And during that conversation, Connie said, hey, Mare, I am an author in this book called Bright Spots Anthology. And some of you may have seen some of my posts about it, but Connie, why don't you tell us a little bit about Bright Spots? And then we're going to talk more about your book and your upcoming class.
Yeah, so it was so cool. And what Mare is talking about, for everybody listening, if you're a business owner, even if you work for a company, you've got to network, you've got to connect. And inevitably, the cool thing that happens is you meet the right people. Mare, right, you and I have become fast friends over this very short period of time. And oh, by the way, you've never met in person because we're in a pandemic, right? So did we mention that, right? So in that short 6 months, I reached out to Mary to do for my book and for a masterclass to do animation. And as I got to know Mary, I was asked by the publishing house that helped me get my book to market. They were doing a collaborative book, an inspirational book, given what was going on in 2020, to try to inspire people to keep moving forward and have authors with different strategies to inspire and give tips and ideas on how to move forward, especially when the change is thrust upon us. So as I was talking to the publisher, I started thinking of people I knew that thought, they need to be in this book. They're brilliant. They're inspiring. So I reached out to Mary and I said, no pressure. We had talked that Mary wanted to write a book. I said, maybe this will dip your toe in the water. And it's just such a great, it's such a great book to be part of because there were so many amazing authors with amazing stories. So who doesn't want to be part of a high vibrational kind of project? And I thought Mary's story was compelling as well. Plus I loved her personality. And I thought, yeah, people need to hear her story too. So that's kind of how that all happens.
Well, and as a result, you and I now are officially, and you in multiple books, Amazon best-selling authors.
Correct.
I never in my imagination believed that something like that was possible.
Sure.
So it was just a really cool experience having Connie refer me, meeting the other authors, working with an editor. So we're going to talk about Connie's book in a minute, but my suggestion is if you've got a story in yourself, it is definitely worth finding somebody to help you get that story out of you and into print or digital print for the world to see. And so kind of using that as a segue, why don't you tell us about your book?
So it's so cool. Again, part of this JVology that Mary and I were part of, you're networking like crazy. So I don't know, Mary, we were probably on Zoom individually. I was probably 30, 35 hours a week, meeting new people, just meeting new people. Ironically, right? It's crazy. At the end of the day, because you're going, you get drained by the end of the day, but you don't realize it while you're doing it, right? It's kind of the after the fact. But just like Mary, I met this other woman. Her name is Julie Hood. And I said, yeah, I have this book and I'm ready to print. And I finished editing, I had an editor do it. And now I don't know what to do. She's like, well, I have the person for you. So that's another thing I always recommend when I talk to people. You're networking, you're talking authentically. Others will help you. And that's exactly what this woman, Julie, did. So she hooked me up with Kathy Davis, who ended up publishing the book, who then connected me with Rebecca Hall out in California. And she got me to international best-selling author in literally a day and a half in 20 different categories. Now, it's a little boring. It wasn't an inspirational book, but my book is a sales book. It's a business book. It's called ESP, because I do believe we need ESP with our clients, whether it's digitally or live. So it's ESP, Easy Sales Process, 7 Steps to Sales Success. And so Mary and Amadeus, that 7 steps is just my signature process that I've used for 38 years, and it works. It's duplicatable. It's easy to understand. It's easy to execute and perfect each of those 7 steps. So your communication with your clients are always spot on. It's always coming from a place of service for your client. You build these tremendous relationships with your clients who, oh, by the way, become part of your network, and they become a referral source. So that was it's a business book, right? And it hit international bestseller because I had the right people. And that's what Mary is talking about with the Bright Spot, that we became #1 bestseller. It was like in a few hours, right, Mary?
Yes,
again,
crazy.
It's crazy. But see, these women know what they're doing. Mary knows what she's doing with her business and with the animation and with the course creation, right? And Amadeus is part of that. And I know what I'm doing, teaching people sales. So, you stay in your lane and you meet the right people, magic happens.
It does. It really does. And I also think that yours was not your typical boring business book, because I did purchase a copy of ESP after it launched. First of all, it was a quick read, which is nice, because
Yes.
a lot of these books are very technical, and Amadeus can speak to that because he's doing some sales training right now, and he's decided that your approach makes a lot more sense than what he's reading right now, and the person that he's working with, who is an excellent salesperson.
Sure.
It's just, you got to find the right coach and the right process for you. But
Yep.
what I really liked about your book was you built in all these anecdotes and you told personal stories so that I could relate to it. And so I was like, oh, well, even though I'm not in financial sales or financial services, I can relate to Connie's story, because yeah, I don't want to, excuse the language, screw people over. I want to make sure that if we can't provide what they need, I want to be upfront and tell them about it.
Absolutely.
And I love that about your book, that said, it's better to lose a sale and be honest than to make a sale and then have to live with oh my gosh, I just cost somebody their life savings or whatever. Obviously, we don't cost people their life savings, but it's that same
concept.
Can promise, a course, but if it's not the right thing for you, I don't want to do it. So I really, really appreciated that about your book.
I just want to comment in the book, guys, my son read it, obviously, to support me. And it was cute because he said, Mom, I read it in 3 hours. And simple works. We make things much too complicated, and then it's hard to execute because you're like, it's too much work, I can't do it. And he was so cute. He's like, I didn't know a lot of the stories that you shared, because they,
cool.
Wasn't that so cool? Because we through our careers, you go through crap, right? Everybody does. Nobody's immune. Nobody has this perfect career path, right? And so I share those stories of saying, but here's the story, right? You probably have a similar crappy situation, crappy boss, whatever it is. Well, how do you respond to that? And so I give ideas and tips that it's not just about the sale, but it's about your own personal growth. So I kept the book short. I tried to make it personal growth as well as anybody that's in business or in a sales position. And by the way, if you're in business, you're in a sales position, how to make sales easy peasy and not icky and pushy and kind of slimy, because the slimy sucks. That's not what we want to do. I shouldn't have said that. Sorry.
Hey, you're just being you. I love
I'm
it.
being
But
me.
you know, it does. It's that you get this feeling. And you know, Amadeus, I want you to chime in because that was kind of what you had said about this book that you're currently reading.
That was, yeah, my first takeaway from the marketing book I was reading was essentially make your customers feel bad enough until they think that what you're selling is worth it. And that to me was just it felt very skeezy and slimy, and I was not fond of it.
See, now I'm going to take the opposing view, and I don't know who the author is, and I don't know what the book is, and it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
For me, the better you know your client through questioning and listening, then when you go to present your idea, it's such a direct hit with them that they look at you, and it's not, oh, it's how quickly can we do this? Like, where have you been my whole life?
Right.
That's when you know you're in the sweet spot because it's such a win-win and dynamic connection. And oh, by the way, that's how you're going to get referrals from them. So your business now explodes because you did the right thing out of the gate.
Right. Yeah, and this book that I'm reading was very much like, oh yeah, make sure you lead their questioning so they understand how bad their situation is and that you're going to make it so much better and that they'll have no problem giving you money. And I was like, not my favorite approach.
Yeah, kind of icky. We should uncover their pain points, right? What they're struggling with, but you don't have to make them feel bad about it. You have to be the shining light to say, it is what it is. We can't go back and change the past. How can we change the future? And that's where we come in, right? As business owners with the magic that we can help our clients with. That's what you guys are doing for your clients. That's what you did for me, Mare.
I love it. So speaking of, and I know you've got a class coming up, but Amadeus had the opportunity to attend your special session on Monday, and it was basically how to craft your elevator pitch into a 17-word-ish description of who you are. And I mean, Amadeus was just like bubbling over when he was telling me about it. So I have two questions. First of all, I'm going to let you and Amadeus talk a little bit about it, but are you going to be offering that again in the near future? And then also, can you tell us more about your upcoming actual class?
Yeah. So the workshop was here's the issue. It's not an issue. It's just, again, we have to shift and change our behavior. When we do networking as business owners, or even when you work for a company, right? You have to network, especially if you're a salesperson. So you have this very three-dimensional world that I can watch body language, right? I could see who I want to network with. Now we're in this two-dimensional world that oftentimes in these bigger networking events, like Mary and I were in early in the year, you're in a gallery. So you're a little postage stamp. So how can I watch your body language? How can I see if you're the one I want to work with? So the idea is you can't take your 30-second commercial anymore because nobody's got the time when you have, 25, 30 people in a networking event in Zoom or Skype or whatever it is. So getting in chat, usually they'll say, oh, tell us a little bit about yourself. And Mare and Amadeus, you guys could attest to this. You get paragraphs. And I'll tell you right now, when I see a paragraph, I ignore it because I don't want to know who they are. They're too verbose for me. You're putting it in a chat, get it down to that 17 to 20 words for me to say, wait, Mary's case, she had literally, it was a little short blip about gamification. I immediately said, I'm creating this masterclass. I need gamification. I need to connect with you. Hey, I'm so excited. I'm glad we're here, right? It immediately captured my attention. It was 17 to 20 words because we don't have that body language and all of those pieces of the puzzle from a communication standpoint. So I'm glad you found value in that, Amadeus, yesterday.
It was definitely interesting to watch. I didn't even think of what you were doing. I was like, oh, this would be great. We need to do this.
Yes.
Right. And that's the whole point, is you want people to have that awareness. And, he came up to my office and like, okay, so we got to spend some time and we got to write this out and we got to figure out who we do. And I'm like, yeah. And then when we go to some of these other virtual networking meetings, this is going to be a great tool because we got our 30-second elevator speech. But you're right. In the digital world, you don't have that much time. And it also makes a great tagline to your email.
Correct.
If you do it correctly, because now it's like part of your signature. And even with email signatures, I tune out when people have like 1,700 things after their email. It's like, here's who I am. Here's my tagline. Here's my phone number. Here's a link to my calendar. I don't want to know your whole life story.
That's right. That's right. Because you don't want to work with someone like that. They can't get to the point when they're trying to intrigue you on the back end, I don't have time to waste if, they go on and on and on and never get to the point of what they do and how I could support them. Right. And I know, Mary, you and Amadeus come from that too. Let me go first, right? That's the whole point of Jay Fiset's group is, let me go first. How can I support you? And then through that, you build this wonderful, dynamic, authentic relationship. Mary and I are friends now. Amadeus, we're friends. So, and we're talking before the show, and Mary, you guys are creating a course. Let me know, man. I'll share it with my list. I'll support you any way I can, and reverse it. Mary and Amadeus did that for me this week with the workshop. Amadeus jumped on. I'm so happy you learned something. And then the masterclass, I think I'm going to do it almost evergreen, Mare, whereas people jump on when it's right for them, because, and this goes back to Amadeus, what you said before, people need to hear things multiple times. And I mentioned this yesterday in the workshop, because our attention span is so minute as humans, because there's so much noise. There's even more noise now because of this, right? The Zoom and whatnot. So people need to hear things multiple times. So my feeling is you jump in when you're ready, man. I'm here. And every month I'll do a group coaching call. So no matter where you are, I'll be able to address it. You can send me the homework in advance, a little quick email saying, Con, when we do the group call, can we address this? I like to be prepared for things. So it does, number one, it makes the group coaching super organized. I'm an organized freak, but also everybody who's part of my tribe really gets the best of me, gets the best of each other. And we keep moving that needle forward of changing that communication between you and your clients. So yeah. So I think I'm going to do it evergreen. So to answer your question, yes, I will be doing that workshop. And yes, the class, I think I'm just going to run it constantly. It'll be on my website, and there's 3 different versions people can buy depending on what, and that's another thing, Amadeus. Everybody can afford, the Cadillac, but they want the information. So for some, the book, $6.99, $6, $7 on Amazon, and you get the flow of the conversation. You get familiar with me, and like Amadeus said, you trust, and you think, let me look at her class, right? And then you look at maybe you start at the smaller version. You can always upgrade. Once you pay that smaller version, you can always upgrade into the higher version. It doesn't matter, but people have to be ready, mind, body, spirit, but they have to be ready for what you're offering. Otherwise, it becomes not a fun situation for you or the client. And I don't want that. I want people to be ready and excited and implementing what we're recommending, right?
And I think that's the key, because so many of us, especially since we've been spending more and more time at home, at least the people that I associate with, we fall into the trap of, oh, that course looks good. Oh, it was only $97. Oh, it was $197. Oh, it was $47. And then you have this whole digital library of courses that you never even open or touch, much like my bookcases at home. I have tons of books that I probably don't have enough hours in the day to ever read, but it's always like, oh, that looked good, or oh, it was on sale, or oh. And so, part of that key is finding the people, the voices that resonate with you, but then actually taking action. Like the course sitting on the shelf is not going to do you any good. But buying a course and saying, you know what, I did these 3 things. Again, like Amadeus going, hey, Mom, we got to come up with this 17-word thing. We're going to have something by next week, and it's just like, we took action. So now what's that next step? So I know we're getting close to time, and I do value everyone's commitment. And we have a 30-minute-ish show, and I've got my windows open and no headset on. So you may be hearing like random motorcycles driving past, but taking advantage of this weather. The last thing I wanted to ask you about is, what was it like working with Amadeus to create those animated videos for you? I know you and I worked on the first one, and Amadeus has really honed his animation skills and is becoming quite the animator. So, what was that experience like? Amadeus, what was it like from your end as the creator? And Connie, what was it like trying to have your vision come to life?
You go first, Amadeus. Okay. I want to hear this.
So I actually thought you were really easy to work with, honestly. You made it very clear, what ideas you wanted, and we're very open to, you said, here's what I'm kind of envisioning. And when I came back with something that was, at first you were like, are you sure that's what we want to use? And then when I explained the thought process of how I thought this was matching your vision, then you were like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Let's hone it in a little bit. And from there, I thought we had a really good product, but it wasn't you didn't shut me down on anything. I said, here's what I thought you wanted. And you went, part of that, yes, part of that, no. Let's meet in the middle and make it work. And that's always what you kind of want when the client interaction is a lot easier, when you can both kind of meet halfway, come up with a good idea. And I think that helped make a really nice product.
Yeah, the outcome was awesome. I mean, everybody loved it. And it was funny because the PR person for the book, that was one of my pieces of the promotion, was the animation. And she was like, who did that? I'm like, you need to meet Mary Nunnally and her team, Amadeus. They did it and it was awesome. And she loved it. She said, wow, because when we're trying to promote ourselves and they keep saying Connie Whitman and Connie Whitman, you know, you almost start tuning out. So that's why the different media touches become real important. And the animation for me, because it's fun and it's light and we make life too heavy and hard. So for me, the animation was just a no-brainer. And Amadeus, it was funny because another thing I've learned, you know, in my 58 years of life on this earth is people are experts. Let them do their thing, right? Because you know what you're doing. I don't know anything. Technology, not, right? So I gave you a concept and said, here's what I'm thinking. Here's the vibe. Here's who I am, right? Gave you all that ammunition for you to do your creative thing, right? Because you know what you're doing. And then when I watched it without the sounds, I was like, oh, I don't get it. When we talked through it, I'm like, wait, that makes sense when we have the voice with it. And then we tweaked it from there. And I thought it came out perfect. So I think we have to share, right, your vision. Let the person you're hiring, whoever that is, do their job, right, to help you create that. And then you come together. Exactly. And Amadeus has said it beautifully. And then we meet in the middle to create because you know the technology, you know, like I might have said, I want blah, blah, blah. And you're thinking, we can't do that. Well, I don't know that. So we have to stay within the lane, right, of our genius. And I thought you did a real nice job. And by the way, you guys are amazing to deal with. Your timelines were, you turned it around ridiculously fast, and just so much fun to work with. I love you guys. You know, and that's the other thing too, is we want to have fun with the people we're working with, because then the end creation is so much better.
Oh yeah, and it was a blast. Yeah. And for those of you that maybe missed our show last week, well, we did show one of your animations. We created a custom character that pretty much looked like Connie. And again, going back to her point about, you know, what's the limitations of the software? She's like, okay, you know, I don't wear skirts. I always wear pants. And, you know, can you make my hair a little longer? It's like, yeah, we can put you in pants, but, you know, the software will only allow me to make your curly hair so big and so long. And she's like, okay, I'm cool with that. But it's like, you got the impression that you knew it was Connie. And then, you know, we put on her actual voice, like she recorded herself, and it was like, okay, cool, now we've got her story. And then I got into the mix, and I should know better and just let Amadeus and the client do their thing. And I'm like, Connie likes yacht rock, so Amadeus did this whole thing on a yacht. And then she's like, oh, and I'm like, okay, my bad, I said yacht rock, I didn't say bring in a yacht, but there was a miscommunication. And then we talked about a golf course, and that one was kind of fun, except Connie's like, my people would just die because I don't play golf. So it's like, oh, well, okay. So when we talk about meeting in the middle, some of that was just, you know, we had the vision, but then, you know, the client has to come in and say, okay, that's not it at all. But we kept the golf course, but now it was a client golfing, and Connie was following along with her briefcase, talking to the client. So it captured it, but it was just so fun, you know, working on the project. I don't really consider myself a micromanager. Amadeus may say otherwise, but I do like to sit in on some of the meetings with the clients, because it also helps me when I'm creating operating procedures and checklists of saying, here's the things we need to ask the client when we onboard them. But I'm glad to hear that it was a fun, relatively painless process.
Awesome. I recommend you highly.
So we are just about out of time. Where can people go to get more information about you and about your products, your services? I'll put some links in the show notes as well. But if people want to reach out to you after watching this podcast, this webinar, this video, whatever you want to call it, how do they get in touch with you? And, you know, any parting words?
Okay, so first of all, you guys rock. Love you, love hanging out with you, love what you create, love that animation and the gamification. For anybody course creating, you need them because remember, we're in this two-dimensional realm now. So not only do we have to change how we personify ourselves, but we have to lift our courses off the paper or off the computer, really, so that people can be engaged, because the attention span of humans is shrinking. We need these little pattern interrupts that Amadeus and Mary create. So I do highly recommend you guys 100%. So that's number one. Number two, if you want to reach out to me, I love giving things away. So I have a whole bunch of free resources on my website. So the easiest thing to do is just go to whitmanassociates.com. So it's WHITMANASSOC.com. There's a resource page, free downloads with some of my sales, like my sales process, the loops Amadeus saw on Monday. So that's there. My show, I also have a podcast, ton of great, Mary has been a guest on it, ton of great content that we share, free tips, strategies. So if you're looking to move your career forward, again, another free resource, the link is there for you. And if you need to email me or reach me, you can do it through the website, or you can email me directly at Connie@whitmanassociates.com. And I do respond to my emails. I don't have a VA do that, because for me, our business, what I do especially, it's personal. You're personal to me. You matter to me. So I want to make a difference in your life. So email me and I am happy to respond, set up a time if you need to chat or whatever.
That's awesome. And I can attest to that, because when I first met Connie through a Facebook group, she had no idea who I was. Sent an email, got a personal response. I'm like, okay, that's really rare in this day and age, where most people, or many business owners, do have VAs or assistants answering their emails. So I thought that was really cool. It's like, whoa, she's this like big, high-powered sales trainer, best-selling author, and she's responding to my email. So I thought that was pretty cool. Connie, we loved having you here.
Thank
We'd
you
love
so
to
much.
have you come back next year.
Yes.
If you're open to it.
Yes.
For those of you tuning in, next week, our guest is Kathy McDowell, who is another animator, but she works more in the 3D realm. So she's going to be showing us a little bit about Create Studio and how to make your animations go even a step further than the 2D world that Amadeus is a master of. So check us out next week and follow Connie. She is amazing. And this video will be live posted on the interwebs momentarily. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks for
so
being on
much.
the show.
Bye.
Thanks so much,
Bye.
guys. Mwah. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.